Welcome everyone to the Circular Fashion Group and our discussion with Anton Schumann of the guest list. And we'll be discussing the Cashmere Spa, which is just a great service that I really wanted to dig into the mechanics of. It's, I think, part of the future of circularity, where we're moving from the sale of product that who knows what we do with it as designers and producers, who knows what our customers do with it, to one of what we would call extended producer responsibility, where we as designers and producers and professionals in the fashion space steward the products that we release out into the wild to ensure that they can last as long as possible, that they can be recycled at the end of life and all those good things, as well as build businesses that really connect and touch our customers more closely. And so I'm really glad to have Anton on to talk to us about that. So Anton, can you introduce yourself and your company and maybe give us a brief description of the Cashmere Spa?
Yes, of course. Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation and thank you for your movement. I think it's quite important and it's a great option for this industry. I'm from Munich, Bavaria. I started being a textile engineer 15 years ago, and since then I never came out of this industry. Starting to be an entrepreneur 8 years ago and mainly working in the technical textile field, automotive, aviation, filtration. But now, 4 years ago, I bought with a couple of other people a small flat knitting company in Germany. It was not investor driven. It was out of curiosity and the believing that producing real value, real goods can be a positive purpose business model, which we do here with 50 people. By now we created the guest list, which is part of the production company, but it's more or less a platform for international designers where we want to collect creativity, but also digital business models and fast communication to the final customer 24 hours worldwide, always carried by a high value end product. That's why we focus mainly on cashmere, on high-end wool, not just because by doing this it's more expensive. No, these kind of products, from our understanding, are really high-end innovations of nature, which means that they last longer. Maybe they are limited by color, maybe they're limited sometimes by touch or performance, which from my standpoint as a textile engineer, actually wool is not limited, because wool is actually the black belt fiber of nature. It's a bit slightly antimicrobial, it's slightly antioxidant, it's flame retardant, it's hydroscopic, it's thermoregulation. If you have the right spinning properties, you have a beautiful product for winter, even for summertime, and you have a sustainable product. It grows a couple of years on the sheep, on the coat. It gets cutted, like razored, and out of this you can make beautiful products. And the performance of these products are so good that they, at least if they are cared correctly, can last up to 10 years probably. And by the idea, when we said we want to have a production unit, we want to have the design unit, because this is very important. From my understanding of the textile industry, once in our time, the industry exited the designers and the marketing approach, and we want to bring everything together actually in one platform, even if there are different companies. We said, okay, after the point of sale, there must be something first to still stay in contact with the customer, with the partner, with the fan, however you call him, and especially stay in contact with the high-end product, which must be cared correctly to last as long as possible. So we came up with the Cashmere Spa idea, which is, from a marketing standpoint, it's a service business model to create the loyalty of the customer, to say, okay, you can stay with your product as long as you want with us, because we take care of your cashmere coat, or even wool or cotton, which we're also using in production, but we can take much more efficient or professional care of your products that it lasts 5 to 10 years. So we started the Cashmere Spa last year, and it attracts a lot of people. It's not the biggest business for our business model, but it's very good for communication, closing the loop to the customer, And out of the Cashmere Spa, we even created a second strength in the circular economy, that we say if products come from our customer which are more or less dead, so you can't repair them, you can't bring them up back to life to the customer, we put them aside, as well as the leftovers. Leftover is not the correct word, but my English is too bad on this side, but the raw materials which are being used in production but not used for the final product. So you always have some 5 to 10% which are you collect them, and we sell all this sorted by wool, cashmere, cotton, or anything else to Italy, because around Biella in Italy you have a lot of small spinners which are buying all this rest and make out new yarn. Now we had the first trials actually this year with first recycled cashmere, recycled wool, which runs quite well. And this is also which has to be communicated with our marketing people like Sergi, Michaela, and Christy, that the customer understands, okay, recycled wool or recycled cashmere is even still a high-end product, but it's even stronger on the value, less CO2, less water, this and that. Yeah. So this is actually, when we talk about the platform as well, the Cashmere Spa, we want to have innovation in business model and product, in design, but also sustainability as part of a sustainable product. Otherwise, I think it's quite heavy in industry for the next years.
Excellent. So walk me through, let's say I'm a customer, I buy a beautiful sweater from you, and a year or two later, I'm looking at the Cashmere Spa. Walk me through kind of what that customer experience looks like for me as I kind of send it back.
So we always communicate to our customers that you should send it back before cold season for Northern Hemisphere, for Europe. So let's July, August, September, you can send it in. You get a discount as being a member of the guest list or a partner or customer of the guest list. If you send in other products from other companies, you have to pay full price, but some people do, because if you have a Loro Piana or Bruno Cucinelli cashmere sweater, this should last for 10 years. So you can do it twice, 3, 4 times to the Cashmere Spa. So the product comes in, we examine it, some pictures will be taken, we have communication with the customer. If it's like to give out a proposal, if it's really dead, we have to tell the customer, it's nice, but it's unrepairable to a certain point. Yeah. Then we put it into the freezer, because wool is a natural product. You have to be careful, because sometimes you have parasites, not bed bugs or anything, but I don't know how it's called in English. It's motte, some small bugs that like to eat hair from animals. Yeah. Which we have to secure also our company before we bring in, for example, in this facility, before we bring in the products of our customers for the Cashmere Spa, they have to be freezed for more or less 4 days, completely zero, below zero, that they are clean and all what is inside might be dead. And then they get in here, they get examined, small holes get repaired, the labels get repaired, new buttons or something like this gets done. Then it gets raised, it gets steamed, and actually it gets fitted on a puppet again, that it has this right shape of the customer, that it is an M, and by wearing natural fibers and knits, it might become an L or even an XL, depending on the user, how he uses his product. So we put it back to an M, or at least somewhere in between. And then it goes to quality control. It gets new labels on, it gets packed in the poly bag, recyclable poly bags. And then actually it's going to be shipped to the customer.
So how long?
It takes, actually we are fast, it takes less than a day, but we have a lot of products in line. So it's, it will take maybe a week to 2. So with the freezing, 2 weeks, we say.
Yeah, that's not bad for getting my sweater back as new, right?
Yeah, but we are also quite clear that it would be nice to get even something back from our US customers, but our purpose for the future is actually to find corporations or partners in the future. It makes no sense to send a used cashmere sweater to Europe, even if you like it and even it's a high-end cashmere, but it might be much more useful to send it to Rhode Island, where I know a knitter, and say, come build up the Cashmere Spa for East Coast USA.
Right.
And this is actually something which is on our business plan for the next months, to build up, besides the network of designers and partners, also build up a network in the supply chain below with other partners in NAFTA region, in Asian region, this and that. Always focusing on small, mid-sized companies. So we are not a partner for 1,000 people company in Asia. We are just 50 people here, so we have to fit to our size.
Right. That's always a classic challenge of circularity is as you have reprocessing facilities in your case, or recycling facilities, there's economies of scale to centralize them, and yet that increases travel. So it's kind of counter to the whole point of reducing the footprint of the product. So it's interesting that you're kind of partnering to try to spread out that Cashmere Spa capability across the world. Tell me more about your partnerships. You mentioned that you accept sweaters from other brands. Is it any sweaters? Do you specifically partner with specific brands? How do they communicate it to their customers, and how does that relationship work?
All our partners, they have the link to the Cashmere Spa on their webpage. They use it in their social media, on their Instagram, and all our partners are, let's say, same size, small, mid-size designer companies, maybe just a designer, just a label brand, or even in 2 cases, there are also production facilities, one in Italy, one in Austria. And yeah, the fit is always depending on size, the site, on size, and also depending, for our understanding, sustainability and circularity in textile means small lot sizes. So even lot size 1, which is a part of the business model of the guest list, that we even do lot size 1, even with the markup, but then we say we create products which are not, so we are not working out from stock. We are not even working with this season rally you have. So I have to produce now winter because there comes winter or summer or whatever, and then I have to sell my stock, and at the end of the day I have to give a discount because otherwise it takes it out. Because this is already heavily changing in Europe due to Corona, and even before, because there's not much space in between the big ones like H&M or Uniqlo. So we are very small, so we just can work with direct customer approach, partners which are on the same side, even on the knitting machine, on the yarn supply machine, on the raw material supply machine. So it must fit to size, because
Yeah.
And they actually, what we found out by working with the partners and getting the partners on the Cashmere Spa is that it always fits to the sustainability value, or to the sustainability approach they have. So they want to have long-lasting products. Long-lasting products you just get by the right care. So work together with the producer, and even to have the transparency to know, that's my producer, he's 2 hours south of Berlin. I can send it there, I get it back. I even might know some faces there. And that's also, which makes it quite important, transparency, less kilometers between user, facilitators, manipulators, producer, then
Yeah, excellent. So how did you come up with the idea, and what were some of your customers' first reactions? Is it, were you sitting there and you're like, oh, my sweater is pilling, I want to build something for this, or did it start as a service that you decided to launch?
Yeah, actually it came up with, so one of our rules is we are just using 100% natural fibers. So we are not using any polyester or polyamide, or we are not using any softener, fatty acids, silicones, lubricants, whatever. Because if you would use them, you would have a high performance product, but not the natural product on this side. But wool itself, from a natural understanding and natural habit of this fiber, brings the pilling. So there will be always a pilling, even if you have the best spinning from the best spinning machines of the best fiber or coat from Loro Piana, you will always have a certain kind of pilling. Sometimes high grade, sometimes low grade, depending on the quality of the fiber, quality of the yarn, quality of the production.
Mm.
But so we said, what can we do against the pilling? So we always can talk to the customer, tell them, look, that's wool. We are not using softeners, this and that. So that's why we have the pilling. So we said, give him the solution to say, we make out a communication, a loyalty program out of it to have this Cashmere Spa as part of our business model. So you buy a product from us, you can bring it to the Cashmere Spa, and then out of this, with Sagi, we created this story about, and then actually we said, yeah, but that's circularity, that's sustainable. Having one product and having one sweater that might fit from size for the next 2 or 3 years, and which we see right now also with Corona, because fast fashion always told the consumer the story, you need every month a new color, or you need every month a new trouser, which is actually, it's a good story, but this story has been played. So we say, have a good product, have a long-lasting relation with your supplier. And also what we are, even if we have retail discussions, what we see very strongly is that you have more and more connections between end consumer and producer. Mm-hmm. So the retailer has been in the pre-digital age, he was a gatekeeper, which you actually can bypass now if you have the right communication digital. But then you also need service, not just product. So we came up with the Cashmere. First, we wanted to say it's called refurbishment because I came from the technical textile business and my main business is aviation. And we do business with refurbishment of planes. But if you refurbish a cashmere scarf from a New York designer, it doesn't sound so, doesn't fit. So we said Cashmere Spa, and everyone can do something with spa. Yeah. Asian, Europeans, Americans, everyone knows what spa is.
You must have some great marketing people.
Yeah, you have to tell Sagi and his team.
Right. So, I really hope that you're right, that the story of fast fashion has been told, and now we are embracing a new story and a new paradigm in how we interact with fashion and with the people who create our fashions. Tell me, you mentioned customer loyalty. Is that one of your goals with Cashmere Spa? And how do you track that? How do you think about that? What are your other goals with it?
The goal is quite simple. To the point of sale, someone takes a product, gives you money, quite simply spoken. It's just a single point, even if it's digital or in a shop. So we want to create connections and connections to the people for a longer period, that the people say, I just believe in this cashmere maybe, and I know these people, they know how to treat my cashmere, and they can send it back to me. So it's customer loyalty. You can just, how should I say, develop with communication, personality from our perspective, and with service. Because buying a product is a one-time issue. Yeah. Then you bought it, then it's yours. You made the contract, it's yours. But you need communication, stories over a longer period, and this must be connected to service. And this is actually, and I once had a project with, for example, in Germany, everyone has his own washing machine at home. But suddenly there come up new business models from ex-McKinsey people to say, why actually this is not how should I say, like a service business model. Yeah. So you have a clean box, you put it out, they clean it up, they iron it, and you get it back in 48 hours. You don't need a washing machine. It's always clear. Everyone knows which are your pieces with the RFID code and whatever. So this is the Cashmere Spa. It's something similar from the idea. Maybe we'll develop to something even bigger ones, because we talk to these people in Berlin, because cleaning clothes or cleaning fashion garments, whatever, or even rent fashion and garments, gonna be a future issue. Like rent a runway, you have a couple of business models, which were, now you had the first movers, and probably these business models are breaking down a bit, so probably there will come up a new ones, because before Amazon, before Zalando, there have been also other ones, but these one actually made the race one day.
Yeah, I was going to say that's kind of the natural extension of your model, where you're selling the product, customer owns the product, but you're then providing the service, selling the service to maintain the product. It's kind of a natural evolution potentially for you to simply rent the product or in some sense keep ownership of it, and then Cashmere as a service, if you will, where when you get that product back at the end of 10 plus years and it's no longer wearable, you can simply kind of continue the subscription with a new physical garment. I mean, is that something you're thinking about, or how do you think about kind of the ROI of your current model, versus models like rental?
Yeah, I think rental in textile and in fashion business will be a major key in future. Right now, I don't know how this business model will really look like, because at the moment we are in the stage of I buy something, it's mine, it's in my closet, but they will come for sure, because I think this is the logical step after being fulfilling the needs of people and then entering consumer age, and we are just now starting to enter post-consumer age. Yeah. And I think there will be a lot of changes. Like what we've been watching very closely is, for example, wearability.com from California. I think they are from San Francisco. And for example, they have a quite interesting business model because they just start production if they have the full funding for the minimum lot size, minimum order quantity. And this might be also something we will apply. But you're right on the question. The big question would be really who will be the owner, what will be the ownership, what kind of ownership models might there be in the future, and then it's also important for the business model owner to say, what's my value proposition? Is my value proposition I rent garment, I sell a service, I just tell good stories? Because the problem in textile, everyone has it. And a red sweater, go to Alibaba, even Kashmir, viscose, you find everything. So this is starting business in textile. It's why? It's really because textile is everywhere. Everyone has textile. So you just can make it about service, story, idea, design. Sorry to say, there are too many designers. There will be, even after this crisis, you will have tons of designers in the free market. Yeah. You just can win with the business model. And it must be digital, it must be sustainable, and it must be somehow innovative. Then you might have a lucky punch.
Interesting. So how do you think about when you price the service? Is it, do you kind of, what percentage of the upfront price is it? The Cashmere Spa service, and do you see empirically that it does extend the life of the product?
Yeah, actually, we just started 18 months ago with the guest, and so this is the first season of the guest list spa, of the Cashmere Spa. So we got in like 47 orders until November. Great. Which is for us as a small business is good enough, because we have 47 customers. The product is still alive. They want to have it in. They want to have it cleaned, repaired for the cold season. Yeah. Now it's much too warm in Germany. That's another problem. But for example, what it also helps a lot is we get a lot of traction or recognition because it's a story. It's not like, oh, it's a small knitter from Germany doing cashmere. Okay, this story been told 15 times already. It's nothing new. Yeah. But that's a Cashmere Spa. Yeah, what's the Cashmere Spa? Then now we make a detergent, so it's all about stories, but also, sorry to say, at the end of the day, you have to offer someone to your peers, to your customer. Otherwise, stories are enough on YouTube. You right. Still you have to find a need and play your value proposition, and it helps us really in the communication, because the Cashmere Spa, the people look different to it than just, we have nice cashmere sweaters from Germany and Italian yarn. Nice. Many people have.
Yeah. So it's part of your brand story and your brand's marketing, as well as a value-added service that you're providing.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, and it's also what we always have to say. It's a profession. So cleaning a cashmere product properly, repairing it, refurbishing it. It's not just open up the laundry and throw it in and some detergent and clean it up and then dry it. It's
Skill to labor.
it's a spa.
Yeah.
So you have to cherish the product, the highest product fiber of nature, whether it's wool or is it cashmere, and make it proper to last and to cherish somehow the value. It's a bit dramatic, but
I like it. I love the story. That's great.
no, that's also the problem when you see at the moment a lot of people try now to bring up a cashmere certificate or cashmere standard, because right now you have at Uniqlo you get a cashmere 100% cashmere sweater for 37 euros. Wow. Which is a good product. You can't say anything against it. I don't know how many codes there are, but there must be a lot of them, because if to fulfill Uniqlo, with almost 120 shops in Europe, you need a lot of codes.
Right.
But they do a good product, but they play the story of volume, high-end manufacturing and everything. So we have to play a different story. And just by the product, it's too little for us as a business model. Too little to have 50 people working here. So we have to extend it with service, with story, to make something special out. Because you wouldn't have invited me for this discussion if I just would do nice cashmere sweaters.
True.
Because you get that Alibaba.
So what are the challenges that you have with it? What are the limitations of the model? What are you running up against in your first season?
It's a funny limitation. Sometimes the stuff gets back to us so dirty that the people in production, if someone buys this for the money, he should have a shower.
Oh, no.
Sometimes it's really hard. So on the other side, it's quite positive. So we believe the products we do, our people really wear probably every day, because they're so run down, and women are always better. They clean their stuff, they fold it, they put it somewhere, and but a men's sweater or a men's cashmere hoodie, if someone really likes it and he feels good in it, it will be worn until death. And it's different to wear a cashmere sweater than wearing a polyester ripstop from Taiwan, because this is a performance textile. This is not a cashmere sweater. The limits we have is internally, but this is normal in production in Europe, to get the right people for the future, get young people attracted to this kind of old business, old economy. Get structured in the system and everything. This shouldn't be the problem there. The limits are more or less really to have communication that people understand this is a service I want to have. But right now, as everything changes a lot in Europe, we see that the people understand more long-lasting product sustainability and this. So we believe that we are at the good moment of time.
Yeah, that's great.
Hopefully, we will see in the end.
Hopefully. I mean, everything's changing now. Everything's breaking and being rebuilt. So it's a fantastic time to, and almost 50 people sending their sweater back the first time you offered it that seems great for initial uptake.
Yeah.
That's incredible. I have another question or two, but at this point, I'd love to open it up for the folks in the audience to start thinking about questions that you want to ask. Feel free to put them in the chat, and if I miss it, my co-host Monica will flag me and say, hey, there's a great question about this. So please feel free to write your questions as I ask my last couple. I mean, I certainly will intersperse your questions in as well. Anton, what I wanted to get into is your brand is a high-end, call it luxury brand, right? And so there's margin in there for customers to have to feel invested in the product that they purchase from you and to want to continue to maintain it. Do you think that this kind of model would work for other types of garments that aren't necessarily high end, that are sort of mid-market or even more volume brands? Or is this really, you think it's something for like the high end market?
We thought actually that the only chance for us as a production unit is to get customers on our side by having the highest product, the highest quality standards, designed by international designers, and communication. We always can spend more on marketing and advertisement, but it's something you have to do. What we still try to be cost and price efficient, that we say by the pricing we have with manufacturing in Germany, which is a high, how should I say, it's a high salary country. Yeah, we are more expensive than Turkey and Romania, but we always tell our customer, you buy here, you don't buy at the retail, because then you have no markup at the retail. Because the problem in our industry is mainly that actually, for example, 25% of the product is done at the producers, and the retail wants 75%. So we try to get this more and more on the buy at the producer side, but with the high-end products. And actually what we are doing by working in Germany, it's not mass production. So a product is more or less accompanied by one person to this whole production here, which is like painting a picture, or it's like doing a high-end watch from Switzerland. It's not similar by the value, but it's by the product and by the feedback we get from our customers. It's worse, because they like to have this high-end quality that it fits, but they also want to have the trust. If something went wrong, they still can send it to us.
Right.
Which is, and this is the problem of fast fashion, because the value is so limited. You just leave it in the hotel room. If the jeans breaks, top. If the chino is dead, just leave it there.
Interesting. And so, I mean, and you sell only direct to customer, right? You don't wholesale. Do you think that this model would work with the retail step in between, or is it really you need sort of a DTC type of offering and channel?
No, we have the first talks with digital retailers and offline retailers, because some of them see that the situation is changing. They need other stories, they need other products. They have to work with the producers, and times are somehow over to always squeeze out the producer. So we are on the one side, we are a platform. On the other side, we are a production unit. So that's why we said we go directly to the end consumer, because we don't want to be squeezed out by any middleman.
Right. And
this will be the problem of retail anyhow, because that we haven't invented the wheel. So many people do, because there's small good designers from Copenhagen, which, for example, produce here. They have a small shop and an online store, and they don't need the factor 4, 5, or whatever to sell it in retail. They say, I'm happy with 2. So 50 euros for maybe your production in Germany, 50 euro for me, and it's still a good product.
Mm-hmm. So it comes back to the question of margin. We had one question which is related. Do you think this would work for product categories and product types other than cashmere?
No.
No, it's cashmere only. Well, could you?
No, it's let's say you have to work high end. This can be leather. This can even be cotton. You have even some cotton knitters here in Europe, where you can buy a cotton shirt for 270 euros, and they have probably a decent margin, and they have customers worldwide. It's always the question about story and everything. And the issue in textile, the price will even decrease within the next year, not by squeezing out more Bangladeshis or North Korean or Taiwanese people, no, but by automatization and digitalization of the supply chain. This will be even a better case for the consumer because products itself will become cheaper and cheaper.
Hmm.
So the producing country or company find a story yourself. And for us as a small manufacturer in Germany, the only position can be quality, high-end, and sustainability, and also some kind of regional aspect. So even if we have sales to Hawaii, to Hong Kong, the main customers are between Moscow, London, Milano.
Hmm. Interesting. Marisu is asking, what percent of your customers would you say are uptaking this service? I mean, it's your first year, but what are you looking at now, and what do you hope that you'll have? What kind of a percent uptake do you hope you'll have?
Just to connect is getting bad. And no, the Cashmere Spa should be, on the one hand, it never will be the value proposition firsthand. So we still want to make products and quality. It should be part of the story and about the value, sustainability, circularity. And even by working much more closer together with the spinners and the mills in Italy, it might be an option to create even new yarns or make small capsules out of recycled yarns, and to give more story to the customer and ideas. Look, it's not just that it's a nice story everyone has. It must be also a positive business model. When a customer says, that's the values I want to have in my wardrobe, I want to have at home on the product, I can buy them because I have the money, or I just want to have this value because I just want to have one sweater, for example, and not 5 from Uniqlo. Mm. So these are the points you have to beat, I think, to make if still tackles on items are somehow consumer goods. So someone wants them. But in the post-consumer age, with a lot of automatization, and Amazon is entering the fashion business very strongly, the products are getting cheaper and cheaper, and fashion will change. So the fashion system we have seen over the last 20 years will not be the fashion system of my kids in 10 years.
Yeah, great.
Probably they will have just a lot of standard commodity streetwear, because no one is interested in having again a Supreme coating on somewhere, or Montclair or Stone Island. But you never know. And it's also it's a very limited view on these things, because the future market is Asia, and Chinese people are different. Europe is different. So right now we focus, but we are quite happy with our customers already, less CO2, whatever. But we see also with our partners like Posaimo or Oswa on the Cashmere Spa. Oswa is a customer of us from this production. They're doing baby clothes from Zurich, Switzerland. They sell to Dubai, to Abu Dhabi, to unbelievable.
And there was a question from an attendee. Does it cost anything for your partners to promote this program, or who gets charged for it?
The partner can be onboarded, and we want to have a clear communication that he promotes us on his webpage and social media, but he gets a discount for his customers coming to our 10% discount coming to our Cashmere Spa. So they're not like onboarding costs. If it's getting a bit more work for the IT people or something, then we have to say how we do this, and we have to split costs. But at the moment, we just say, if we are on your webpage, you're on our webpage, and let's promote this together.
It's the customers that pay for it, right? It's not the partners.
It's not the labels or brand, it's the owner of the garment. But that's the right question to the beginning of our discussion, and this will change maybe quite soon in textile. The owner of the garment, or what position of a brand.
Right. And do you find that Adam is asking, do you find that your customers are asking for sustainability, circularity as central to their purchasing decision and their criteria? Or is this something that you're kind of communicating and informing them about?
No, we see very strongly that our end consumer are really asking for it, and these are really people, they want to have this value transported, and they want to have it transparent. Thankfully, that these are very educated consumers, because they're not just saying, I want to have a certificate and then I trust you. No, they want to have the transparency in the supply chain. And this helps us on the guest list, even on the old brands like Georg Meyer. And on the guest list, and like with all the designers, it's always one of the first decisions. Where are the workers? Where comes the yarn from? Are we using chemicals? And are we working on stock, or are we working on order? And out of this, like Jennifer, like Tina have, these values must be the same. Otherwise, there will be no membership on the guest list.
Yeah. I'm curious, do you think that it will cannibalize any new sales as people's garments last longer and they put off a purchase of a new sweater? Or on the contrary, do you think it would kind of inspire them to look around, the virtual shop for new things that they might see as they're kind of increasing their relationship with you?
It can happen, but that's why we work with a lot of different designers, and which have more or less small collections, so that the pieces are very different to each other.
Mm-hmm.
So, but of course, if the BMW lasts forever, you won't buy a new one.
Right.
But this is always the problem with German products.
We don't always have that problem in America, but fair enough.
Yeah, but it's but that's the part of our purpose business model, because we opened up this business on a purpose. Thankfully, we have business to family. We do money. These times are more or less over, or you never can say it, because if you look at Supreme, how they've been sold, or Stone Island to Montclair, how they sold, it's unbelievable. There's still so much money in fashion. If you just check on Decathlon and Uniqlo, how they rose over the last years. But okay, this is not our purpose. Our purpose, especially here, was to, it's probably the same like in US. You can say that's a dying industry, or you can say that's an old industry which you can adjust with digital consumer communication, customer communication for the new age. Because for sure, we will need clothes.
Yes, for sure.
And then it's the question how to manage, because for sure there will be people having the need to buy something from you. The issue is just there's a lot of competition.
Yeah, it's about -5 Celsius here in Boston, so for sure you need clothes.
Yeah,
so that will always be the case. So in launching Cashmere Spa, what have you learned about circularity, about how it integrates into your business, that you might want to pass on to the folks who are listening?
Yeah, you have to communicate differently, much more personal to the customer, because as I said before, if you sell something, it's up 1 minute, it's done, point of sale, through. So you have to be much more closer in the communication to work with the customer, which is also good, because it might fulfill also other sales. And as I said before, it also helps us a lot, because just having products is not enough in these days. You need a story, you need a service. And you can have a nice bar if you won't have good music and good bartenders, no people in.
Yeah.
So this is something, it's the same like with our events, which are hard in Corona times. So we are having a good year, but not the best. We work with hotels, and we work on a very personal level. So having personal sales in cooperation next year with Porsche Leipzig, to say they want to have some exclusivity, they have exclusivity cars, they want to have exclusivity clothes. So it's something you can play. And it's, again, it's not just, oh, that's a label from somewhere and here's a designer. It must be a bit more.
Right. Right. I think that's really prescient. I think the way that we communicate the story of our products and the story of our business, not just your products, it's also your business and what you stand for as a company and a brand and a label. I think that will change as we develop stronger, as we as consumers develop a stronger sense of where do we buy our clothes, who makes them, where are they from, what happens to them afterward. I think that's really smart. So
I think, may I just touch this point, which is quite important, because we saw this from the food industry. So like Whole Foods in US, or this all organic movement in Germany, even you have a discounters at the moment, you know, these apples come from this farmer in this region, this pig is from this farmer in this region, this wine comes from this Italian guy, whatever. So you have the story and you have the transparency, and the same might develop also in textiles, even on the high level, like the volume sites. If you go on the Patagonia webpage, or if you go on the Marks and Spencer webpage, you see all the suppliers in India and whatever.
Yeah.
So we do this on a small scale, which might work.
Yeah, I think the food analogy is great, because we've really started to wonder where our food comes from and who makes it and what's in it. And hopefully the same is absolutely true for our garments. So I won't keep you too much longer. Are we in where the magic happens right now? Is this where the Cashmere Spa takes place?
Yes.
Excellent.
Unfortunately, no people inside. This will be very gets you a bit frustrated. Our shift o'clock in the afternoon, and this is the garmenting department. Even though if we want to have time, maybe in January, we can do a small. We take a piece of we take a product and we go with the iPhone to all the steps. If your people are interested, because it's witchcraft. It's not a Tesla company. It's not rocket science. It's textile, but it's something more than just sitting in office. For example, here it's the inspection unit. That's why you have this.
Aha.
It's not a binocular, but I have to. Mr. Sagi has to give me some English lesson. But you have to inspect the fabric, the garment, to see if you have parasites, if you have holes, if something else happened, if you have a change in the color or something. And then we document this all by pictures. We make a small report. Germans always do reports. They like this. And we give this to the customer. If the product is lost, we have to tell to the customer, look, we have an issue. Maybe you get a discount, or we can't do anything. But this is sometimes quite funny, actually. Most of the customers bringing stuff to the Cashmere Spa, they really love their stuff. So it's in textile world to hear from a woman, yeah, I wore these sweaters over the last 5 years, more or less every day. I liked it, but I'm working in an office. I always scratch it on the table, and that's why it's broken here. But I like it so much because it's so comfortable. It's good temperature, performance, and everything. It's nice to see, and this is. For us as a producer, it's really nice to see that the people like the product, and that you can say, no, it's not just textile. It's your piece of and it's your part. It's your all the this makes me happy, for example.
That's great.
And there are enough customers, or let's say partners outside, because you have so many people. So the market is still open, and we see very strongly that you have more or less a trend, which will be a niche, to people to say, it's so much easy to say in other consumer goods. Buy once a lifetime a Rolex, and not every year a G-Shock or Casio.
Yeah.
So the same might happen in textile. We see it coming from the food industry. They buy a good steak from a butcher and from a farmer, it's better than the Walmart 2-pounder for 57 cents.
Right. That's great. I've really enjoyed this conversation. There's already at least one of the panelists, and I add my voice to this, attendees, who is interested in your iPhone tour of the guest list next month. That would be great to watch. Um, I want to close out with just a couple of things that I've learned from you, and then I'd love to have you kind of have the last word. The two things that I really, kind of are going to stay with me is, you're committed to natural fibers, and you've taken what could be a disadvantage of natural fibers, which is that they pill, I mean, if you don't coat it with some chemicals to lock it into place, and you've turned it into an advantage in the form of a new service that will allow you to then go and reach out and educate and provide value and service to your customers, and even expand your customer base as you're interacting with, providing this cashmere service to the customers of other labels. I think that's a fascinating pivot of embracing circularity and embracing sustainability and doing something sustainable, taking the downsides, potential downsides, and turning it into a service model. I think that's really cool. And the second thing that I really will take away is your point about communication. How we talk to customers will be different, has to be different. Not just how we tell the story, but how we have that back and forth of, hey, this is how you're using the garment. And I can imagine if your cashmere sweaters come back and there's a common place where they're worn, you can kind of go back into the design and say, maybe we can, make that point stronger. There's a lot of now feedback that you'll get through this service. And so the way that you talk, have a conversation and a dialogue with customers, as opposed to just pinging marketing messages, is I think a bit of revolution as well. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Any final words for the folks who are watching and thinking about embracing different elements of circularity themselves?
Yeah, it's always simply said, in textile, it's hard because there's too much competition and the industry is very much on volume, low price over the last 200 years. It's not just happened the last 20 years. But I think there's a lot of room now with change of mind of customers, of systems, especially also on young people, where there's an option or there are niches for businesses, new services, new ideas. And we always must be quite clear, it's also new options to make out a living and to pay salaries, because it's not just the nice story, it's also the question to pay 50 people every month. And we know we will not pay 50 people every month by making cheap volume products, because this already Czech Republic, Romania can do even better than Germany. So we have to find something else. And we will not quite simply, you can't change the game. We can't change the ball, but we have somewhere maybe change from football to beach volleyball, simply spoken.
That's great. Well, really appreciate it. This has been a lot of fun, and we look forward to talking to you again. And for those of you watching, feel free to check out some of our other great brands who are doing some pretty amazing stuff, like Anton and the guest list. So thanks everyone for watching, and we will be in touch soon, Anton, to get a factory tour. That'd be great.
You're all invited. Thank you very much. Merry Christmas.
Happy holidays, everyone. Talk soon.
Thank you. Bye.